My girlfriend sent me a text saying, "I got back together with my ex, wish me luck and don't be mad." I replied, "Good luck." Then, I started dating her best friend, who had harbored feelings for me for a long time. 4 days later, my ex called me crying. I'm Jake, 31, and she's Olivia, 29. We had been together for a little over a year, serious enough to have met each other's families, to have established our routines, and to have vaguely discussed what might happen next year. It was serious enough that her text message made absolutely no sense, unless you already knew Olivia. Olivia always treated emotions as inconveniences. Hers were entirely legitimate. Everyone else's were negotiable. She liked to say she was direct, which mostly meant she said brutal things and expected to be applauded for her honesty. I stared at the screen of my phone for longer than I should have. I read it 3 times. The last sentence annoyed me the most. "Don't be mad." As if that was something she could pre-approve for me. I typed exactly 2 words. "Good luck." No punctuation, no sarcasm, no follow-up message. She saw it immediately. She didn't reply. It was very clear. She preferred departures that felt clean to her. The narrative in her head probably sounded something like, I was honest, and he was mature. We both handled the situation well. She would undoubtedly tell people that later. I could already hear her saying it. I went to my job as a software developer, just like any other day. I didn't call in sick. I didn't lose my footing. I just felt drained, as if someone had reached inside my chest and pulled out a load-bearing wall I hadn't even realized was there. Around noon, her Instagram story popped up on my feed. I shouldn't have looked at it. I did anyway. It was a blurry photo of 2 coffee cups on a wooden table, one of which was clearly not hers. The caption read, "Full circle," followed by a white heart emoji. That's how I found out she hadn't just reconnected with her ex. She had already slipped seamlessly back into his life and out of mine, without even pausing long enough to feel embarrassed about it. I muted her stories after that, but I didn't block her, not yet. That evening, my phone vibrated again. It wasn't Olivia, it was her best friend. And that's where things really began to change. Her best friend's name was Leah. She was 28 and lived in a cozy apartment over in the Wash Park neighborhood, completely across town from me. She was the kind of person Olivia always described with a slight, almost imperceptible condescension. Sweet but passive, too loyal, bad at picking men. I had known her for our entire relationship. She was always around, always supportive, always the one who remembered birthdays, who brought extra snacks to game night, who asked how I was doing when Olivia couldn't be bothered. Her text was simple. "I just heard the news, are you okay?" That single question hit me harder than Olivia's breakup text ever did. I didn't reply right away. Not because I was playing some kind of game, but because I genuinely didn't know what to say. "I'm fine" would have sounded dishonest. "I'm not fine" would have sounded like an invitation I wasn't ready to extend. So, I opted for moderate honesty. "I'm processing, thanks for asking." 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared on my screen. "I am so sorry," she wrote. "You didn't deserve that." There was no, she didn't mean it like that. No, she's just lost right now. No defense of her friend, just validation for me. We didn't talk much more that night. Just a few more messages, nothing flirty, nothing heavy. Just 2 people acknowledging that something had ended badly. The next day, Olivia sent me another text. "I just wanted to make sure there are no hard feelings between us. I really hope we can act like adults about this." It was classic Olivia. Checking the emotional perimeter without stepping back inside, making sure I wasn't going to disrupt her new happiness with any of my own misery. I replied with the same energy as before. "All good, take care." She left me on read. Later that evening, Leah texted me again. "Do you want to grab coffee sometime? No pressure, just to chat?" I stared at the message for a long time. This is the part of the story where an internet forum would assume something shady was going on, like I was plotting my revenge or just looking for a quick rebound. I wasn't. I just didn't want to feel invisible anymore. We met 2 days later in a quiet, independent coffee shop in a neighborhood where neither of us spent much time. It was neutral ground, free of any shared memories. Leah looked nervous when I walked in. She smiled a little too fast. She apologized for everything. The traffic, the weather, the general state of the universe. It was endearing in a way I hadn't felt in months. We talked for 2 hours about nothing important and about everything that was important. And at some point, somewhere between a laughing fit over a terrible movie we had both seen and realizing how smoothly our conversation flowed. I understood something that tied my stomach in knots. This wasn't a new feeling for her. She hadn't reached out just because she felt sorry for me. She had been holding this in for a long time, and suddenly Olivia's text wishing me good luck no longer felt like the end of something. It felt like the beginning of consequences she hadn't even begun to imagine yet. I tried to be responsible about it. That's the part that still makes me shake my head. After coffee, I told myself it was a one-time thing. A bond created by a shared difficult situation, nothing more. Leah hugged me goodbye quickly, carefully, as if she were afraid of crossing a line, and said, "I'm really glad you're doing okay." I went home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Then I immediately got annoyed at myself for feeling that way. 2 days later, Olivia posted another picture, this time of her ex's arm, a highly recognizable tattoo wrapped around her waist. The caption read, "Some things are meant to come back." I completely muted her on all platforms after that. Stories, posts, everything. That same night, Leah wrote to me. Random question, "Are you free tomorrow night?" I hesitated for a moment, then replied, "Yeah, why?" "I was thinking about getting dinner as friends, if you're up for it." As friends. I appreciated that she said it out loud. Olivia never would have. Olivia thrived in ambiguity when it suited her and demanded absolute clarity when it protected her. We went to a small Thai restaurant where neither of us had ever been. No history, no potential minefield of memories. Leah talked about her job as a second-grade teacher, about how exhausting it was to always be the reliable person for everyone. She joked about the fact that Olivia often called her boring, only to ask her for a significant favor right after. I listened, really listened. At one point, she laughed and said, "I always thought you were different. I just never thought it mattered." I didn't ask her what she meant. I already knew. Walking her to her Subaru, there was a moment, neither dramatic nor cinematic, just a silent awareness hanging in the air between us. She looked at me as if she were waiting for permission to feel something. I said, "We can stop if we need to." She shook her head. "It's weirder if we pretend it's not there." We didn't kiss that night, but when I got home, Olivia had sent me a text. "Hey, just a heads up, can you grab my favorite hoodie next time you pass by my place? I forgot it." No hello, no apology, just logistics. I stared at the message, then at Leah's name still open in my texts. That's when I realized Olivia hadn't moved on. She just assumed I would stay right where she had left me. And for the first time since her breakup text, I felt something that looked like resolve instead of a sense of loss. I didn't reply to the hoodie text. Being ignored probably irritated Olivia more than any argument ever could. She hates being ignored. She hates not having that last thread of access. In her mind, exes are supposed to remain useful emotionally, logistically, socially. The next morning, Leah texted me first. "I hope I didn't make things complicated last night." I typed back immediately. "No, it was easy." In a good way. There was a pause before she replied. "Yeah, it surprised me too." We didn't label anything. There were no declarations, no dramatic "what are we doing" conversations. We just kept talking. Coffee turned into long walks around the park. Walks turned into dinner again. Somewhere in there, the line between us quietly disappeared. That's all it took. On the 4th day, Olivia called. Not a text, an actual call. I stared at my phone as it rang, my chest tight. Not because I missed her, but because I knew exactly what tone she was going to use. Casual, slightly amused, as if she were checking in on a piece of furniture she had left behind in an old apartment. I picked up. "Hey," she said with an exaggerated cheerfulness. "So, funny thing. I stayed silent. I heard something kind of crazy," she continued. "You and Leo were out." I leaned back against the couch. "Yeah, we were just hanging out." I offered no explanation. Her voice changed instantly, becoming sharp, unmasked. "Are you serious?" "Yes." She laughed, but it sounded forced and fake. "Wow, that's fast. Don't you think?" I didn't bother pointing out the timeline of her own actions. I didn't mention how she had already gone back to her ex before dumping me over a text. Facts never mattered to Olivia unless they served her narrative. "You are not allowed to do that," she blurted out. "She is my best friend." "You didn't ask for my permission when you decided to get back with your ex," I replied calmly. There was silence, then a tremor in her voice. "You did this to hurt me," she said. That one almost made me angry. I didn't do anything to you, I said. You moved on. So did I. Her breathing became erratic. I thought you would at least be mad longer. And there it was, the expectation. I said. I just didn't stay that way. She started crying then. Real tears, messy and accusatory. You're supposed to be sad, she said through her sobs. You're not supposed to replace me with her. I closed my eyes. I didn't replace you, I said softly. I chose someone who actually chose me. She hung up on me, and for the first time, I knew exactly how this was going to end for all of us. Olivia didn't disappear after that call. She lost it. Within hours, my phone started blowing up. Not from her directly, but from mutual friends who suddenly wanted to check in. Carefully worded messages, as if they were afraid to pick a side in the unfolding drama. Is everything okay between you and Olivia? She seems really upset. I heard some things. I ignored most of them. Leah didn't have that luxury. She told me later that Olivia had shown up at her apartment unannounced that same evening, crying, angry, and oscillating between playing the victim and the prosecutor. She kept asking if you mattered to me, Leah said quietly. Not in a curious way, but in a competitive way. It made perfect sense. Olivia was never good at losing attention, especially not to someone she subconsciously ranked below herself. Leah had always been a safe haven for her, the loyal friend who listened to her rants, validated her bad decisions, and never crossed any boundaries, until now. The next day, Olivia texted me directly, a long message, multiple paragraphs, a complete emotional roller coaster. I can't believe you would do this to me. After everything we've been through, she knew how much you meant to me. It's a betrayal from both of you. I read it once, and I didn't reply. An hour later, another message arrived. I hope you're happy destroying friendships. That one annoyed me because Olivia didn't actually care about the friendship. She cared about appearances, about losing control of the narrative where she was the main character and everyone else only existed in supporting roles. That night, Leah came over to my place. We didn't talk much about Olivia. There was no need. The tension between us wasn't awkward. It was solidifying, as if something fragile had finally decided to hold its shape. At one point, she said softly, I was afraid you'd think I was taking advantage of the situation. I looked at her and realized how different this was from anything I had known before. I feel chosen, I said honestly, not just out of convenience. She smiled then, not a triumphant smile, but a relieved one. 2 days later, 4 days after Olivia's breakup text, my phone rang again. It was Olivia. I answered. She was crying before I could even say hello. How could you do this to me? She sobbed. I thought we meant something to each other. I thought you would at least need some time. I remained silent. You didn't even fight for me, she continued. You just replaced me. That's when I finally understood. She didn't want me back. She wanted proof that leaving me still had an impact, that it still hurt, and she wasn't getting it. Olivia didn't stop calling after that. She just changed her strategy. The crying turned into anger. The anger turned into sarcasm. The sarcasm turned into those strangely calm, manipulative messages that always started the same way. I'm not mad anymore. I just want some clarity. Clarity for Olivia always meant having control. I didn't reply, not because I was trying to punish her, but because every conversation felt like walking back into a room I had already decided to leave behind. There was nothing left in there for me. Leah, on the other hand, was taking it harder than she let on. Olivia had been her best friend for almost a decade. They had been roommates in college, shared countless inside jokes. Losing that wasn't just collateral damage for Leah. It was a real loss. She told me I stabbed her in the back, Leah said one night, sitting on my couch with her knees pulled up to her chest. She told me I was just waiting for my turn. Were you? I asked carefully. Leah shook her head. I liked you. Yes, but I never crossed the line. I respected her. I respected you. I took her at her word when she ended things. Olivia always liked to rewrite history once it no longer served her. In her version, Leah wasn't a friend who had developed feelings for the wrong person. She was a traitor who had been plotting this all along. The next morning, Olivia finally said the quiet part out loud. She texted me. So, you just got yourself a downgrade. That word, downgrade, told me everything I needed to know. She didn't see Leah as a person. She saw her as someone beneath her in the invisible hierarchy she had built in her head, someone I wasn't supposed to want. I replied for the first time in days. It's not about making comparisons. She replied instantly. To me, It is, obviously. That afternoon, Leah got a call from Olivia's ex, the same one Olivia had gone back to. Apparently, Olivia hadn't stopped fighting with him, crying constantly, and accusing him of ruining her life. He had already started distancing himself from her again. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on us. Olivia was burning bridges fast, but she still assumed there would be something solid left behind for her to lean on. This time, there wasn't. And the more she realized that her boyfriend and her backup plan were both gone, the more frantic she became. I could feel the pressure building. The explosion hadn't happened yet, but it was definitely coming. The explosion happened 2 nights later. I was at Leah's apartment, helping her make dinner. Nothing fancy, just some pasta and a badly chopped salad. When her phone started vibrating on the kitchen counter, she glanced at the screen and froze. "It's Olivia," she said quietly. It rang over and over again. Leah didn't answer. Instead, Olivia called me. I went into the hallway and picked up. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Olivia immediately snapped. "No hello, no tears this time, just pure fury. I'm not going to get into this with you," I said. "Oh yes, you are," she retorted. "You think you can just move on as if I never mattered with her?" And there was that word again, her, as if Leah were just an accessory. "You dumped me," I said flatly. "You told me you got back together with your ex, and wish me good luck." "I didn't think you were actually going to replace me," she yelled. "Normal people don't do that." "I didn't replace you," I replied. "I accepted what you told me." She let out a piercing, unhinged laugh. "Accept? Don't flatter yourself. You were supposed to be hurting. You were supposed to need time." "That's not my problem," I said. She went silent for a second, then lowered her voice, taking on an icier tone. "You know she's just doing this to get back at me, right?" I clenched my jaw. "Don't talk about her like that." "Oh, please," Olivia scoffed. "She always wanted what I had. You're just the latest example." I hung up right there. When I walked back into the kitchen, Leah was sitting at the table, her hands wrapped around a glass of water she hadn't touched. "She hates me," Leah said softly. "No," I said, sitting across from her. "She hates losing." Leah nodded, but I could tell it still hurt. Losing a best friend, even a toxic one, leaves a mark. That night, Olivia sent one last message to a group chat with some of our mutual friends. "Just so everyone knows, I got dumped and betrayed. I guess loyalty doesn't exist anymore." I left the group without replying. Leah did too. And in that moment, something shifted. Olivia no longer controlled the narrative. She was screaming in a room that was quietly emptying out. After that night, everything went quiet. No calls, no texts, no vague posts, no friends checking in on her behalf. It was the kind of silence that only happens when someone finally realizes they've lost both the audience and the stage at the same time. Leah told me later that Olivia had tried to drastically backtrack. First, she went to her ex, the same guy she had left me for. She showed up at his place crying, telling him everything had fallen apart because she had made a terrible mistake. According to him, she wanted to be reassured, not to be held accountable. He gave her neither. He broke up with her again, for good this time. That's when the panic really set in for her. Olivia called Leah one last time. Not angry, not sarcastic, just broken. "She asked me if you were really happy," Leah said, her voice tight. "Not if I was okay, not if she had hurt us, just if you were happy." It made sense. In that situation too, Olivia never wanted other people's happiness. She wanted the comparison. If I was miserable, then her decision to leave made total sense. If I was fine, then she had miscalculated badly. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. "Hey," Olivia said softly, without any aggression, without any act. "It's me." I didn't speak. "I'm not calling to fight," she said quickly. I just don't understand how it all happened so fast." I thought about it for a moment. "It didn't," I said. "You just weren't paying attention." She let out a shaky breath. "I didn't think you would move on before me." That single sentence said more than anything else could have. "You told me you got back together with your ex," I replied. "I believed you. I didn't think losing you would cost me anything," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "You don't get to choose the price once the transaction is done." She cried then, softly. "No more accusations, just grief and shock." "I really thought you would be there for me if it didn't work out with him," she admitted. I said. "Until you told me not to be." We stayed silent for a few seconds. "I hope you're happy," she finally said. I am, I replied. It was the truth. She hung up without saying goodbye. I didn't hear from Olivia for a week after that call. No texts, no surprise numbers, no dramatic posts. That kind of silence only happens when someone replays every decision they made, hoping one of them will suddenly make sense if they just examine it closely enough. Then late on a Friday night, she tried again. This time, it wasn't emotional, it was casual. Random question, are you really dating Leah, or is it just a rebound? I stared at the message and felt nothing. No sting, no irritation, just clarity. I replied honestly, we're dating. 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Wow, so it's serious? That question annoyed me more than it should have, not because it was intrusive, but because of what it implied, that this seriousness was something she still needed to approve of, that I owed her an explanation for moving forward with my life. It's real, I typed. That's all that matters. She didn't reply right away. When she did, it was a long message. I just don't understand how you could move on so easily. It makes me feel like what we had didn't matter at all, that I was nothing to you. And there it was, the final pivot. From anger to wounded pride. I took my time replying. What we had did matter, I wrote. But you ended it. I didn't know there was a required mourning period. The typing dots stopped. Minutes passed. Then, so that's it. You chose her. Really, her over me. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. You chose first, I replied. I just didn't argue with your choice. That was the last message she sent that night. An hour later, Leah texted me from the other room. She messaged me. She asked if it was worth it. I walked in, sat next to her on the couch, and showed her my phone. Leah read the messages silently, then looked up at me. She still thinks this is about winning, she said. I nodded. Yeah. Leah snuggled up against me, resting her head on my shoulder. I'm glad you didn't stay where you weren't chosen, she said softly. Me too. And I knew deep down that there was only one conversation left. The final call happened 4 days later. I was sitting on Leah's couch, half watching a show we weren't really paying attention to, when my phone lit up with Olivia's name. Not a blocked number, not a burner phone, her real contact. I hesitated for a second, then answered. Not because I owed her anything, but because I knew this was the end. She was already crying. I don't understand, she said between breaths. I really don't. You were supposed to be the safe choice. And there was the truth, laid bare. I didn't know that choosing myself meant losing you forever, she continued. I thought you would be there like you were before. I closed my eyes. You didn't choose yourself, I said softly. You chose your ex and told me not to be mad about it. That's not what I meant, she blurted out before breaking down again. I thought you would wait. I glanced at Leah, who gave me a small, reassuring nod without hearing a single word. I didn't wait, I said. I moved forward. So that's it, Olivia whispered. You're really happy with her? Yes, I said. No hesitation, no softening of the blow. A long silence followed. The kind that stretches on because there is nothing left to negotiate. I guess I misjudged you, she finally said. I didn't think you had the strength to walk away. Me neither, I admitted. Until you made it easy for me. She let out a shaky laugh that sounded more like a sob. I wish you had fought harder. I shook my head. I wish you hadn't said goodbye before you were ready to mean it. Another pause. Good luck, she said, the words now full of bitterness. The same words she didn't expect to hear back from me. Good luck, I replied. I hung up. I blocked her number for the last and final time. Leah reached for my hand. I squeezed it back. Olivia thought she had ended things cleanly. She thought she controlled the timing, the fallout, and the story that would be told. What she never understood is this. You don't get to leave someone, tell them not to be mad, and then expect them to stay empty and waiting for you. She moved on first. I just didn't come back when she realized she had made a terrible mistake. Comment. I chose to share this story today because it holds a powerful message about recognizing your worth. We often encounter situations where others try to overstep our boundaries and expect us to simply accept their behavior. You always have the absolute right to protect your energy and walk away from dynamics that disrupt your peace. Moving forward is never about proving a point or seeking revenge against those who have hurt you. It is actually a quiet act of self-respect and a necessary step toward your healing. True relationships must be built on a foundation of mutual kindness and active choice. You should never have to settle for being treated as a backup plan or an afterthought. I hope this discussion encourages you to prioritize your emotional safety and surround yourself with people who truly value you. Please take a moment to share your reflections in the comments below. I am incredibly grateful for this community and the way we constantly support each other through life's challenges. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.